The wind screamed like a dying engine outside the metal walls of the workshop, shaking loose a rain of frost and rust flakes from the ceiling. Garen Vel sat hunched over his workbench, goggles glowing dull orange in the dim light, soldering a fractured power relay that had no business still functioning. His prosthetic arm clicked and whined with each motion, old servos grinding against cold metal. "You know," said a voice behind him, filtered through static and sarcasm, "there are easier ways to freeze to death than welding during a blizzard." Garen didn't look up. "Luma, you say that every winter. Still haven't found one that includes central heating." The AI drone hovered nearby, a dented sphere of carbon shell and blinking blue optics. "Central heating would require fuel," it replied, "and fuel would require credits. Which you don't have." Garen grunted, sealing the joint with a hiss of molten alloy. Details. The workshop's lights flickered as the generator coughed, trying to stay alive against the cold. The temperature gauge blinked a red warning, -72°C and dropping. The storm outside wasn't just bad, it was suicidal. Whiteout winds howled across the flats of Glacivis, 9, burying half the settlement in crystalline snow. Garen pushed up his goggles and squinted toward the window, a sheet of reinforced plasteel fogged with frost, beyond which nothing existed but a wall of white chaos. He'd seen worse, though not often, and never alone. The silence between gusts pressed against his ears, a reminder that he was probably the last mechanic still dumb enough to live out here. The radio crackled suddenly, bursting with static and fragmented signals. Garen froze, listening. At first it sounded like feedback, then came a low hum, rhythmic and alien, followed by a series of short, panicked bursts. "Distress frequency," said Luma, voice sharper now. "Not human." Garen frowned, turning the dial. The signal came again, faint and broken, crash, south quadrant. Life, then dissolved into white noise. "Could be a trick," Luma warned. "Could also be someone dying in the snow," Garen said. He stood, the servos in his leg brace whining as he crossed to the rack of cold weather gear. "Suit up the crawler." Luma's blue light flickered anxiously. "You're seriously going out there? Visibility's 20 meters. The last time you went hero mode, we lost half the drone inventory." Garen slid on his thermal coat and checked his sidearm. "Then it's lucky I only need one drone this time." Within minutes the workshop doors groaned open, releasing a wave of heat that the storm devoured instantly. The snowcrawler's engine sputtered, then roared as Garen steered into the blinding white. The wind slammed against the windshield like fists of ice. The crawler's sensors blinked erratically, barely keeping track of direction through magnetic interference. "You're off-map," Luma said over comms. "Everything's off-map in a storm," Garen replied, gripping the controls tighter. He followed the fading signal through terrain that shifted beneath the snow like a living thing. Once or twice he thought he saw movement, shadows twisting in the storm, but it was impossible to tell where the horizon ended and the sky began. After what felt like an hour, the distress beacon flared again, louder, closer. Garen slowed, squinting through the windshield until he saw it, a glimmer of dark shapes half buried in the ice. He parked the crawler and stepped out into the storm. The cold bit instantly at his exposed skin, freezing breath into shards of vapor. He trudged forward, boots crunching through snow crust, until the shapes resolved into forms, organic curves, metallic veins, torn armor glinting beneath frost. They weren't human. The crash site was littered with bodies, massive and alien, each one half covered by snowdrifts. Garen knelt by the nearest figure. Its armor shimmered faintly, alive with residual energy. A scaled face beneath the cracked helmet looked almost reptilian, crystalline lines tracing its cheekbones. The eyes flickered open weakly, glowing faint gold for an instant before fading. "Luma," Garen muttered, voice muffled by the wind, "we've got survivors." "Define, we," Luma said, panic creeping into its synthetic tone. "You're telling me those are Drakari?" "Garen, they hate humans." Broken by the faint, labored breathing of the alien survivors. He stared at them sprawled across the floor, their strange crystalline armor glinting in the dim workshop light. 16 dragon-looking aliens in my shop, he muttered. Just what I needed. Luma floated down beside him. Congratulations. You've officially broken every interspecies quarantine law on the books. Garen wiped frost from his beard, expression unreadable. Yeah, well, he said, glancing at the unconscious warriors, laws don't keep people warm. Then he rolled up his sleeves, grabbed his toolkit, and got to work. Outside, the storm howled on, as if the planet itself was warning him that this rescue would change everything. Steam hissed from cracked vents as Garen shoved another heater core into the line. The workshop's air was thick with the smell of ozone and burning insulation. Frost clung to the metal walls in spiderweb patterns, melting only near the roaring plasma torches he'd set up to keep the temperature above freezing. 16 massive alien forms lay scattered across the floor like statues thawing from ice. Their armor pulsed faintly, veins of light moving beneath the crystalline surface. Garen wiped sweat and frost from his forehead, flexing the stiff servos in his prosthetic arm. Well, he muttered to no one, if they die, at least they'll die warm. Luma hovered beside him, projecting diagnostic readings into the air. Their core temperatures are rising, but slowly. Oxygen saturations all over the place. You're lucky they breathe roughly the same garbage we do. Garen grunted, crouching beside the nearest warrior. The alien's chest rose in shallow, uneven breaths. He unlatched the cracked helmet and pried it open with a screwdriver. The inside glowed faintly with golden light. Easy now, he said quietly, though he knew it couldn't hear him. You didn't freeze your scales off just to quit now. He pulled out a small injector, normally used for engine coolant, filled it with a mix of heat serum and synthetic plasma, and pressed it into the alien's arm. The body twitched. For a brief moment, the armor brightened like a waking furnace. One by one, he moved between the bodies, repeating the process, improvising tools as needed. The workshop filled with soft humming as alien technology began to stir, synchronizing faintly with his equipment. The lights flickered. One of his monitors suddenly displayed symbols he didn't recognize. Luma, he said, straightening, tell me that's you hacking the grid again. It's not me, Luma said sharply. They're interfacing with your systems. Their armor's broadcasting. Garen frowned. Broadcasting what? Hard to tell. Probably a distress ping. Or maybe a warning to their fleet that a greasy human's elbow deep in their circuits. Garen sighed. Perfect. Hours passed. The storm outside still howled, rattling the walls, but the temperature inside had stabilized. Garen leaned back against a work table, half asleep, when a low growl vibrated through the air. His eyes snapped open. The sound came again, throaty, resonant, and definitely alive. He grabbed his plasma cutter just as one of the Dracaries shifted. The warrior's tail scraped the floor, armor plates shifting with a crystalline chime. Then another one stirred. Within minutes, several of them were moving, groaning, claws flexing as their senses returned. Garen backed up slowly. Easy there, Scaly. You're safe. Well, safe-ish. The largest of them, scales dark as obsidian and eyes burning amber, pushed upright. The creature was easily 2 meters tall even kneeling. It turned toward him, blinking slowly, nostrils flaring as vapor rose from its breath. Human, it rasped, voice low and guttural. Where are we? Garen hesitated, then gestured toward the flickering lights. My workshop. Glassivus, 9. You crash-landed in the middle of my favorite snowstorm. The alien's gaze darted around, taking in the heaters, the machinery, and the crude medical rigs Garen had built. You aided us, it said, tone halfway between disbelief and accusation. You should not have done that. Yeah, well, Garen said, rubbing the back of his neck, you were making the place look untidy, lying around in the snow like that. The alien tilted its head, unsure if that was an insult or something else. I am Commander Valerix of the Dracari Vanguard, it said finally. These are my warriors. We were en route to Etherian Rendezvous when our ship was struck by magnetic storms. Systems failed. We fell. Garen nodded toward the storm still raging outside. Yeah, Glassivus likes eating ships. Real collector's hobby. Another Dracari, smaller but with bright silver scales, stepped forward, eyes narrowing. You could have left us to die. Garen snorted. Could have. Didn't. Not really my style. Why? The alien pressed. Humans and Dracari have no bond. Our last contact ended with your fleets firing on ours. Garen smirked faintly. Then consider this my apology gift. You want coffee? Or whatever it is dragons drink. Luma drifted down, muttering, you're going to get vaporized, and I'm deleting your search history before it happens. Valerix raised a hand, silencing the others. You saved warriors of the Vanguard, she said slowly. That act demands acknowledgement. I'd settle for a thank you, Garen replied. Or a parts shipment, if you're feeling generous. He moved to his console, ignoring the 16 pairs of glowing eyes tracking his every move. The readings on his display were fluctuating wildly. The Dracari armor was syncing with his systems, forming low-frequency pulses through the workshop. Whatever your suits are doing, he muttered, they're flirting with my power grid. Tell them to take it slow. The humor seemed lost on them. One of the twins, bright emerald scales and curious eyes, approached the bench, crouching to inspect Garen's equipment. Primitive construction, it murmured. Inefficient, but clever. Hey, Garen said, that inefficient junk just kept your hide from becoming a popsicle. The alien glanced up, something like a smile flickering across its expression. Then the power cut out. Every light in the workshop died, plunging them into darkness. A moment later, a deep hum rose from the Dracari suits, biotech systems activating, glowing brighter until the whole room shimmered in green and gold light. Luma's voice came through the dark. External sensors just picked something up. Garen's stomach tightened. What kind of something? Movement. East Ridge. Large, fast, and not human. The aliens tensed instantly, weapons forming from liquid metal that flowed out of their armor like living steel. Garen raised a hand. Hold on. Probably just the wind playing tricks. But the noise grew, a rhythmic thud, almost like footsteps. Then the outer door shuddered once, twice. Something slammed against it hard enough to dent the steel. The Dracari spread out, forming a loose semicircle, their eyes blazing. Garen grabbed his plasma cutter and stepped forward. You've got to be kidding me, he whispered. The door groaned under another impact, and the walls rattled. Valerix's voice cut through the noise, calm but cold. If they followed our signal, they are not here to talk. Garen looked at her, the corner of his mouth twitching. Great, he muttered. I just wanted a quiet night fixing engines. Now it's raining dragons and visitors. He flicked the cutter to full charge as the final blow sent the door bursting inward in a shower of sparks and snow. Outside, the storm screamed, and whatever was coming through wasn't human, and wasn't friendly. Snow exploded inward as the outer door gave way, shards of ice scattering across the floor like shrapnel. Garen barely had time to duck before something massive lunged through the breach. A creature built of black alloy and frost, its limbs jointed wrong, its head a blur of metal and teeth. For a moment, only the sound of heavy breathing and crackling plasma filled the room. They'll be back, Valeric said, voice low but steady. They never stop after a first attack. Garen holstered the cutter and looked around at the wreckage. You're welcome, he said dryly. Next time, try knocking before you attract homicidal snowbugs to my doorstep. The Dracari captain turned her burning gaze on him. You risked yourself again for warriors not of your kind. Why? Garen shrugged. Bad habit. Besides, you were in my shop. Can't let customers die before they pay. A few of the Dracari exchanged puzzled glances. One, with bright emerald scales, leaned toward another and whispered, "Is that humor?" The other replied, "If it is, it's poorly constructed." The wind screamed like a dying engine outside the metal walls of the workshop, shaking loose a rain of frost and rust flakes from the ceiling. Garen Vel sat hunched over his workbench, goggles glowing dull orange in the dim light, soldering a fractured power relay that had no business still functioning. His prosthetic arm clicked and whined with each motion, old servos grinding against cold metal. "You know," said a voice behind him, filtered through static and sarcasm, "there are easier ways to freeze to death than welding during a blizzard." Garen didn't look up. "Luma, you say that every winter. Still haven't found one that includes central heating." The AI drone hovered nearby, a dented sphere of carbon shell and blinking blue optics. "Central heating would require fuel," it replied, "and fuel would require credits. Which you don't have." Garen grunted, sealing the joint with a hiss of molten alloy. Details. The workshop's lights flickered as the generator coughed, trying to stay alive against the cold. The temperature gauge blinked a red warning, -72 and dropping. The storm outside wasn't just bad, it was suicidal. Whiteout winds howled across the flats of Glacivis 9, burying half the settlement in crystalline snow. Garen pushed up his goggles and squinted. Valerix regarded him quietly for a moment. "You are cynical," she said, almost studying the word. "Yet you act without hesitation." "Yeah, well, thinking gets people killed," Garen said. "And cynicism keeps you from expecting too much out of people. It's efficient." "A strange creed," she murmured. "But perhaps a necessary one." He snorted again, moving to a control panel. "Welcome to humanity. We specialize in strange creeds and poor decisions." The workshop hummed as he rerouted power to reinforce the heaters. A faint rhythm pulsed through the walls, like a heartbeat echoing in metal. The Dracari seemed to notice too, their armor resonating in time. "Your machines respond to us," Valerix said softly. "They are singing." Garen glanced up. "That's not singing, that's overclocking. And if it keeps up, the generator's gonna melt through the floor." "Perhaps it recognizes strength," she said, almost amused. "Perhaps it recognizes stupidity," he muttered, tapping the console until the pulse faded. The air settled again, heavy and warm. Several Dracari had collapsed from exhaustion, their bodies still recovering from the cold. Garen sighed, pulling off his gloves and tossing them aside. "All right," he said, "you've got food in the corner locker, heat on the left, and something pretending to be coffee if you're feeling adventurous. Don't touch the red switch unless you want the ceiling to explode." Valerix looked at him curiously. "You would shelter us, even now." "I already did," he said, sitting on a crate. "Too late to start hating you for it." For a long time, the room was quiet except for the hum of machinery and the wind beyond the walls. Then one of the Dracari approached him cautiously. "Human," it said. "We owe you life debt." Garen rubbed his temples. "Yeah, I was afraid you'd say that." "It is sacred," the alien insisted. "It cannot be refused." "Listen," Garen said, "I'm not looking for debt, honor, or whatever mystical nonsense you people believe in. Just fix your ship, leave the place standing, and we'll call it even." Valerix stepped closer, lowering her gaze slightly. "You misunderstand. A Dracari debt binds bloodlines. When the Vanguard answers it, all of Etherian answers." Garen blinked, then laughed under his breath. "Well, that sounds harmless." Luma's optic flickered nervously. "Garen," it said, "you might want to rephrase that before they start sending wedding invitations." He leaned back against the wall, eyes closing. "If more of you show up, I'm charging rent." Outside, thunder rolled across the ice plains, deep and distant. The storm was beginning to break. Valerix turned toward the sound, her eyes narrowing. "More are coming," she murmured. Garen didn't open his eyes. "Good. Maybe they'll bring coffee." None of them realized that in the clearing sky above Glassivus 9, the first shapes were already forming, vast, glowing silhouettes descending through the clouds, shaped like smooth, shining avocados. The storm finally cracked open, revealing a sky washed in pale green light. Garen squinted through the reinforced plasteel windows, rubbing frost from the glass, and froze. Hundreds of glittering shapes hung in the cold air, smooth and oddly organic, their contours vaguely resembling giant avocados. At first, he thought his eyes were failing him. Then Luma's voice, tinged with awe, cut through the static. "Garen, you are not hallucinating. All systems confirm, 107 Dracari ships, descending. Unregistered by human or consortium sensors." Garen staggered backward, nearly colliding with a crate of tools. 107, he muttered. "I thought I was exaggerating when I said you saved a few friends." Valeric stepped beside him, arms crossed, scales glinting in the alien light. "These are not merely friends. They are the vanguard, summoned across the galaxy. Our gratitude cannot be measured in words alone." Garen tilted his head. "Gratitude, huh? You sure it's not vengeance disguised as shiny spaceships?" The first ship hovered over the workshop, its hull shimmering like liquid emerald. Garen's console buzzed and whined as alien energy interfaced with his patched-up systems, sending readings spiraling in ways he couldn't interpret. "I think they're scanning," he muttered, eyes wide. Luma's optics flashed red. "Scanning? Garen, that's the diplomatic equivalent of pointing a plasma cannon at your neighbor and calling it a handshake." Garen rubbed his eyes. "Good to know they're polite about it." Outside, the wind stilled, but a hum resonated through the walls, deep and vibrating, echoing through the frost-covered floors. The Dracari inside the workshop stiffened, crystalline armor resonating in sympathy. "They feel it," Valeric said, her voice tight. "It is a bond, strengthening with proximity. You will be honored tonight." Garen let out a dry laugh. "Tonight? I haven't even fixed my coffee machine yet." From above, beams of soft green light swept the surface, illuminating the snowdrifts and distant ridges. Garen could see movement in the shadows, other humans, tiny specks on the ice plains, eyes wide, frozen in shock. Frontier Command transmissions fired up in the static, panicked and desperate. "This is Garen Vel," he said, reaching for the comm. "Yes, it's real." "No, you're not dreaming. Please stop sending me recruitment forms." Static answered him, followed by a flurry of anxious human voices. One shouted, "They're avocados. Giant avocado ships." Garen groaned. "Not helping." Valeric surveyed the descending fleet with an almost reverent expression. "Each ship carries warriors, supplies, and gifts. Every vessel is capable of independent operation. They answer only to me, and now, indirectly, to you." Garen's mouth fell open. "Indirectly? You mean I've just been volunteered for, what? Galactic hospitality?" Luma floated beside him, optics spinning nervously. "Garen, I suggest you start thinking in terms of evacuation plans and structural integrity." Garen muttered, "Structural integrity? My roof is going to collapse under gratitude alone." The first of the ships lowered closer, and a ramp extended, reaching the ground like a living bridge of crystal. Garen blinked. "Wait. They're landing. On my shop." Valerix nodded. "It is customary. The debt must be observed." Garen took a deep breath and braced himself. "Great. First it was snow, then scavenger drones, now, avocado landings. What's next, karaoke?" A soft vibration ran through the floor, as though the building itself were trembling in anticipation. Garen felt the hairs on his arms stand up as 16 Dracari warriors emerged from the workshop, spreading into defensive positions. Valerix's amber eyes flicked to him. Prepare yourself. They will meet you with respect, though the concept may be overwhelming for a human mind. Garen rolled his eyes. Overwhelmed, got it. I specialize in being overwhelmed. From the ramp, warriors descended, each one bearing gifts in crystalline containers and strange technological devices that hummed and shifted with a life of their own. Garen noticed one of them, a massive figure with iridescent scales, approach him slowly. It stopped a meter away, and Garen felt a pulse of energy wash over him, warm and unsettling, like a heartbeat inside the floor. Human, the alien said in a voice that seemed to vibrate through the metal, your act has reached beyond our world. We are here to honor you. Garen blinked. Thanks. I mean, welcome to my garage. Valerix stepped forward, gesturing toward the fleet. This is only the beginning. Our presence will attract attention, both friendly and hostile. Your people will see, and so will others who watch the stars. Alliances will be tested. Threats will rise. Garen's knees gave a little, and he grabbed the edge of a worktable. Great. Just when I thought I could finish fixing a generator, I'm stuck in intergalactic diplomacy with a fleet of avocado-shaped warships. Luma floated close, glowing nervously. Garen, perhaps we should move critical equipment. I am detecting structural stress points, and high energy surges from the fleet. Your coffee machine may not survive this. The Dracari warriors began arranging themselves around the workshop, scanning and interfacing with Garen's equipment. Panels flickered and hummed as alien energy integrated with human tech. One of the twins, emerald-scaled and mischievous, floated toward a welding station, peering at a half-dismantled robot arm. Primitive, it said. Yet functional. Ingenious. Garen smirked. Glad you appreciate my artistry in duct tape and prayer. Valerix ignored the banter, her eyes scanning the sky. We will remain until your debts are balanced. Know this, human, your actions will ripple across light years. Suddenly, a low rumble vibrated through the ground. The fleet's energy synchronized with the terrain, sending shockwaves across the ice plains. Garen stumbled, catching himself on a crate. I feel that, Luma said, voice anxious. They're linking with the planetary grid, and with you. The whole valley is a resonant node now. Garen groaned. Fantastic. I always wanted my shop to be a power conduit for a dragon fleet. The sun, or what passed for one in Glassivus 9's storm-cleared sky, glinted off the ship's smooth hulls, casting shadows that danced across the frost. Garen looked at Valerix. All right, so, what do I do now? She stepped closer, voice steady and commanding. You rest, human. You prepare. We are not just a gift, we are a warning and a promise. And you, are the reason for both. Garen exhaled, leaning back against the console, shaking his head. Of course. Me. The human who fixes rust and coffee machines. Universe, you have a sense of humor. Outside, the rest of the fleet began to land, ramps extending like limbs of living crystal. Garen watched in disbelief as warriors poured down, carrying supplies, weapons, and strange devices. The storm's remnants shimmered in green light as the entire valley became a scene of awe-inspiring, almost terrifying, serenity. Garen rubbed his eyes again. 107 ships, he muttered. And they all want to meet me. Great. Just, great. Valerix laid a scaled hand on his shoulder. Your courage has summoned a galaxy of gratitude. Now you will see its weight. Garen swallowed hard. Yeah. I can feel it already. And somehow. I think it's heavier than my prosthetic arm. Luma beeped anxiously. We might want to start considering a strategy before curiosity kills us all. Garen shook his head, looking out at the descending fleet. Strategy, he muttered. Yeah. Right after I fix the coffee machine. The workshop hummed as the alien ship's energy melded with the building, casting flickering green light over every surface. Garen leaned against a crate, taking it all in. 107 avocado-shaped ships. 16 alien warriors inside his workshop. And the storm outside, finally spent, revealing that nothing on Glacivis 9 would ever be the same again. The valley hummed with alien energy as Garen Vel staggered toward the console, eyes still adjusting to the glow of the fleet. The avocado-shaped ships hovered silently above the frost-crusted terrain, ramps extended, alien warriors moving like fluid statues across the icy plains. Garen ran a hand through his frost-lined hair, muttering under his breath. 107 ships. 16 inside my shop. And I still haven't had breakfast. Luma hovered beside him, blinking rapidly. Garen, this is not about breakfast. Sensors indicate dozens of human observation units approaching. Frontier Command is mobilizing, likely to ask inconvenient questions. Garen groaned. Great. The more humans, the more forms. I've always hated forms. A low hum vibrated through the workshop floor, pulsing with each heartbeat of the fleet. Valerix's amber eyes flicked toward him. They have synchronized with your systems. Not merely the workshop, but your presence. You are a node. Garen's brow furrowed. A node? I'm a mechanic, not a power grid. The captain's gaze didn't waver. A catalyst, she corrected, tone absolute. Your actions here ripple further than you understand. Garen pinched the bridge of his nose. Yeah, well, ripple's one word for it. Chaos is another. Outside, the first human patrols crested the ridge. They halted abruptly at the sight of the fleet, weapons drawn but useless against the sheer magnitude of alien presence. Garen stepped to the rampart window, pressing a hand against the frost. Frontier Command, he said over the comm, voice dry. Don't panic. I'm still alive. And yes, they are real. No, you are not dreaming. Yes, please keep your blasters holstered. Static crackled, followed by urgent, anxious chatter. One voice shouted, Avocado ships. 107. Are you kidding me? Garen shook his head. I wish I were kidding. Valerix strode to the console, her tail sweeping across the floor like a living whip. You underestimate the effect your choices have wrought. They will report. Others will listen. This display may prevent further incursions, or provoke them. Be vigilant. Garen rubbed his temples. You mean I just invited galactic attention to my front yard by being nice? Exactly, Valerix said, her voice even. But it is an honorable outcome. Garen snorted. Honorable outcomes never come with paperwork or sleep. The alien warriors inside the workshop had begun interfacing with his equipment. Crystalline panels hummed as his patched-together human tech and Dracary biotech synced in strange patterns. Garen leaned over, examining a diagnostic readout, and muttered, Your armor's trying to reprogram my generator. I swear if it blows, I'm charging rent. One of the twins, emerald-scaled and mischievous, floated over, peering at a partially dismantled welding rig. Primitive, it said. Yet resourceful. Ingenious. Garen grinned. I call it duct tape and prayer. Luma's voice cut in sharply. This is not a joke. Energy flux through the valley has tripled in 10 minutes. Any misstep could level your workshop. Garen waved dismissively. Yeah, well, I like living dangerously. The wind over the plain stilled, leaving only the hum of the fleet and the crackling of his generators. Garen's sensors pinged a sudden anomaly, a pulse from the ridge. He squinted at the screen. Consortium, Luma whispered. They're monitoring. Possibly preparing intervention. Garen leaned back against a crate. Fantastic. Just when I thought my day couldn't get worse, we're on galactic radar. Valerix's voice was firm. Do not underestimate them. They see our presence here as a threat. You are now a person of interest. Garen muttered under his breath, and here I was worried about paperwork. One of the warriors moved toward him, a massive figure with scales of deep sapphire. The pulse from the alien suit synced with the vibrations of the floor. Garen could feel it in his chest. You feel that? The warrior said, voice low. The resonance. It honors you. Garen blinked. Honors me? It feels more like my skull's vibrating. Valerix's amber eyes flicked toward him. It is both. You have changed more than this workshop today. He exhaled slowly. I fixed engines, saved lives, and now I'm the epicenter of galactic diplomacy. Great. Just great. Through the frost-streaked windows, Garen could see the first tendrils of the human response team moving cautiously toward the fleet. Small reconnaissance mechs and hovercrafts, their sensors sweeping the sky nervously. Garen muttered, they're going to have a hard time explaining this one at the office. Luma's optics spun nervously. Garen, they may attempt to enforce a quarantine, or worse. You must prepare contingencies. Garen groaned. Contingencies. Sure. Let me just finish my morning coffee first. Valerix approached him, her tone softening slightly. Your courage in the storm has brought the vanguard to you. They answer a debt centuries old. We will remain until your safety, and your humanity, are respected. Others may come, but you must remember your role. Garen ran a hand across his frost-lined beard. My role? I fix junk. I feed hungry travelers. That's about the sum of it. Luma buzzed sharply. Your role is larger than you understand. Prepare, or the consequences will be dire. Garen shook his head. Consequences. Right. I should have just stayed in bed. The fleet above shimmered, light refracting through the frost and mist like liquid emerald and gold. Garen watched the descending warriors, their crystalline forms glinting, ramps extending, devices moving as if alive. He could feel the energy in the ground, the pulse resonating through his workshop, through the valley. I feel like my head's going to explode, he muttered. Valerix's voice was calm. Or perhaps it is expanding. You will understand it in time. The galaxy listens now. And you, human, are the reason. Garen sighed and ran a hand across the console, tracing the lines of energy that pulsed in harmony with the Dracary suits. All right, he muttered, let's see if kindness really can mess up the universe. Luma's optics flickered in concern. Garen, I don't think mess up the universe is a viable plan. Garen smirked faintly, staring out at the alien fleet. Maybe not. But it's mine. Outside, the valley glowed with alien light, the snow reflecting emerald and gold, casting long, shimmering shadows across the frozen plains. Garen leaned back against the crate, breathing in the strange, electric air. He knew the humans would come, the consortium would watch, and the galaxy would never forget this day. And he, the grizzled mechanic, was at the center of it all, caught between dragons, avocado-shaped starships, and the endless snow of Glacivis, 9. The valley pulsed with green and gold light, alien energy radiating from the hovering fleet like a living heartbeat. Garen Vel leaned against the console, rubbing his forehead. The workshop had become a nexus of Dracary and human tech, wires and crystalline veins weaving together, humming with unfamiliar resonance. The 16th warrior, still adjusting to the thawed warmth, stepped forward cautiously. Human, it said, voice deep and reverberating, it is time to receive the acknowledgement of the vanguard. Garen blinked. Acknowledgement, huh? Does that come with coffee or just ominous speeches? Luma hovered close, optics flashing nervously. You may want to take this seriously. Their acknowledgement could have unforeseen consequences. Valerix emerged from the crowd of warriors, her amber eyes locked on Garen. The rite of gratitude is not mere ceremony. It binds our honor to you. It is sacred. Garen's mouth twitched. Sacred? And here I thought my job involved grease, sparks, and bad coffee. She ignored the remark, moving toward the center of the workshop, where alien devices began to levitate, arranging themselves into patterns Garen didn't recognize. Crystalline energy arcs connected them, forming a lattice that seemed to pulse in time with his own heartbeat. Step forward, Valerix commanded. The rite requires proximity to the life you preserved. Garen exhaled and shuffled toward the lattice, prosthetic arm creaking under his weight. The air thrummed with power, warm and almost alive. Luma buzzed anxiously. Garen, I strongly recommend caution. The energy levels are unprecedented. Garen waved a hand dismissively. Unprecedented, sure. But so am I. One of the smaller Dracari, bright silver scales catching the green light, placed a clawed hand near his shoulder. The contact sent a shiver up his spine. Focus, it murmured. Your mind will shape the bond. Garen frowned, glancing at the intricate lattice. Shape the bond? Luma's voice was clipped. They are interfacing with your neural patterns. Human cognition is a conduit. Garen groaned. Great. My brain as a data port. That's comforting. Valerix raised her hand, and the lattice pulsed brighter. A low hum filled the workshop, resonating with the walls, the floor, and even the snow-covered ground outside. Garen felt it in his chest, a warmth spreading through him, almost like the first fire he had ever started. The energy was alive. It shifted, molding around him, responding to his thoughts and instincts. Breathe, Valerix instructed. Do not resist. Accept the gift of the vanguard. Garen drew in a shaky breath, glancing at the towering warriors around him. He tried to center himself, though his mind was racing. The lattice responded to his hesitation, pulsing slower, almost pleading. He shook his head, muttering, just once, could something be simple? The lattice responded with a surge of energy, and suddenly the workshop was filled with a chorus of hums, harmonics, and glowing light. Panels flickered, welding arcs danced in rhythm with the crystalline pulse, and even Luma seemed to quiver with the strain. Valerix placed a clawed hand on his chest, amber eyes piercing. You carry compassion untainted by expectation. It is rare among humans. That is why the vanguard honors you. Garen swallowed, feeling a strange warmth spreading into his bones. One by one, the Dracari approached, hands or tails brushing lightly against the lattice, infusing it with their essence. The energy shifted, and before him, a crystalline core began to take form, a fusion of alien biotech and human engineering, spinning with colors he could barely name. It hovered in the air, rotating slowly, casting reflections that danced across the frost-crusted walls. Garen stepped back, instinctively reaching for his plasma cutter, then realizing the tool was useless here. The core pulsed, sending soft vibrations into the floor and his chest. Luma's voice was almost a whisper. Garen, it's bonding with the workshop. With you. The entire facility is becoming part of the lattice. He groaned. Great. My shop just went full alien on me. Valerix inclined her head. It is the acknowledgement. A gift. The Vanguard's gratitude is not symbolic, it is tangible. Garen blinked. Tangible? You mean my floor might turn sentient and complain about overtime? One of the twins, emerald-scaled, floated closer, inspecting the swirling core. It will enhance functionality beyond human design. Machines will respond more readily. Systems will self-regulate. Even flawed devices will perform admirably. Garen raised an eyebrow. Even my coffee maker? Luma buzzed nervously. Do not test that hypothesis, Garen. Garen muttered, of course not. What could go wrong? The lattice pulsed again, sending a soft vibration through the workshop. Garen could feel the energy connecting everything, metal, frost, machinery, and the alien bodies moving around him. Panels realigned, welding arcs stabilized, and the generators hummed in perfect rhythm with the crystalline pulse. Even the snow outside seemed to reflect the light, glimmering in emerald and gold. He reached out tentatively, brushing his hand through the spinning core. Heat and electricity combined, harmless yet invigorating, and the core adjusted, responding as if recognizing his touch. Valerix's voice cut through the hum. The bond is complete. You carry a part of the vanguard now. With it comes responsibility. They will follow your guidance in matters of safety and honor. Garen blinked at her. Responsibility, huh? I fix engines, not galaxies. The amber-eyed captain gave a small nod. Your actions have already reshaped alliances. Even now, the ripples extend beyond this valley. Garen exhaled, feeling the energy subside slightly, leaving warmth and a faint, persistent hum. Luma hovered beside him, scanning the readings. Garen, the core is stable. Workshop systems are enhanced. Neural feedback indicates adaptation. Your body and mind are integrating with the lattice. He rubbed his eyes. Adaptation, right. So now I'm part shop, part dragon tech, and all confused. Valerix stepped back, wings flexing slightly, her eyes softer. Confusion is natural. Understanding comes with time. For now, accept the honor, human. It is well earned. The crystalline core rotated slowly above the center of the workshop, casting flickering light across the dracery and the repaired machines. Garen leaned against a crate, letting the warmth seep into him. The shop hummed as if alive, instruments and devices glowing faintly in harmony with the alien energy. He muttered under his breath, well, that's one for the resume. Bonded with an alien fleet. Survived a blizzard. And probably broke every human law in the process. Luma's optic blinked in a warning. Caution, Garen. Your notoriety will attract attention. He waved a hand. Yeah, Luma. Let them come. I've got a glowing, sentient core, 16 grateful dragons, and one hell of a snowstorm story. Valerix nodded, amber eyes glowing faintly. Then we rest, human. You have honored us. And we will honor you in ways the galaxy will remember. Garen glanced around at his transformed workshop, the hum of alien power threading through every surface. Galaxy, huh, he muttered. Guess I better start learning how to make coffee for 100,000 warriors. The lattice pulsed softly, as if in agreement, and the valley beyond shimmered, alive with the presence of a fleet that would change everything. The valley outside the workshop shimmered in green and gold, a frozen expanse now alive with alien light. Garen Vel leaned against the reinforced console, watching as the avocado-shaped ships shifted slightly in the thin atmosphere, the hum of their energy weaving with the crystalline lattice still suspended in the workshop. The 16th Dracery warrior stepped forward, tail curling around its legs, scales glinting. Human, it rumbled, you have received the Vanguard's acknowledgement. Yet the galaxy is not still. Threats arise where gratitude flows. Garen rubbed his eyes. Great. So saving you guys doesn't just make friends, it also makes enemies. That's human luck in a nutshell. Luma's optics spun rapidly. Garen, multiple energy spikes detected along the northern ridge. Consortium scouting units have mobilized. Probability of engagement, high. Garen groaned. Engagement, huh? I can't even finish my breakfast. Valerix moved to the center of the workshop, amber eyes glowing softly. You must understand, human, that your actions resonate. We have summoned the Vanguard, yet our presence here signals a point of interest. Many will watch. Some will act. Garen raised an eyebrow. Act? You mean shoot first, ask questions never? The captain inclined her head. Precisely. We prepare, and you will guide them through this encounter. Garen blinked. Guide them? Lady, I fix rust and engines. I don't negotiate with alien factions. The Dracari warriors inside the workshop began arranging themselves in formation, crystalline armor humming with synchronized pulses. Garen watched, slightly overwhelmed, as the lattice above spun, adjusting to the shifting energy. One of the twins, emerald-scaled, floated toward a stack of human crates. Primitive storage methods, it commented, yet effective. Ingenuity is remarkable. Garen muttered, duct tape and hope. My signature style. Luma's voice was clipped. Ingenuity may not save us if engagement occurs. You must strategize, Garen. He waved a hand. Strategy? Sure. Step 1, don't panic. Step 2. Don't let them fry my workshop. Outside, the northern ridge rippled with movement. Shapes darted through the lingering snow, barely visible against the pale ice. Garen's sensors pinged constantly, updating with each subtle shift. Yep, there they are, Luma said. Hostile units, approaching fast. Garen rubbed his temples. Fast is bad. I like slow, predictable disasters. Valerix's tail swept across the floor, sending a low thrum through the workshop. Calm yourself, human. We will intercept. You provide the anchor for this nexus. Your presence stabilizes our bond. Garen blinked. Anchor, huh? Great. Just what I wanted. To be a literal anchor for a dragon army. The first hostile scout emerged, a hybrid of mechanical and biological components, limbs jointed wrong, head a blur of metal and teeth. Garen grabbed a nearby torque wrench instinctively. All right, Luma, prep the lattice. Let's see if this thing actually works as advertised. The Dracari reacted instantly, leaping from the workshop onto the snow, claws and tails in motion. Valerix raised a blade of molten crystal, slashing through the air as the first scout lunged. Sparks, ice shards, and plasma arcs collided in a chaotic symphony. Garen backed toward the generator, wrench raised. I think I just signed up for interstellar pest control. The lattice responded to the sudden surge of energy, glowing brighter, pulses echoing through the floor and into Garen's chest. He felt it in his bones, the bond, alive and reactive, amplifying the Dracari's power and stabilizing the workshop. He muttered, okay, this is, slightly terrifying, slightly awesome. The largest of the emerald-scaled twins floated close, hand extended. Do not fear, human. You are the fulcrum. The energy flows where your will directs. Garen groaned. Will, huh? Guess I better not sneeze. Outside, the remaining hostile units advanced, sensing opportunity. The Dracari warriors intercepted them with disciplined precision, their armor flowing with energy that synchronized with the lattice. One of the smaller Dracari rolled under a mechanical limb, countering with a pulse of plasma that vaporized the threat instantly. Garen ducked as a shard of frozen alloy skittered past his head. Yep, definitely need coffee after this, he muttered. Valerix's voice cut sharply through the hum. Human, focus. Your bond maintains cohesion. If you falter, the lattice falters. Garen swallowed hard. Right. Focus. Got it. He reached out tentatively, brushing his hand through the suspended core. Energy coursed through him, tingling and warm, connecting his thoughts to the lattice. Outside, the Dracari responded, movements fluid and synchronized as though anticipating his mental cues. Garen muttered, okay, this isn't so bad, wait, it's terrifying again. A massive hybrid scout leapt toward the workshop, metal limbs sparking against ice. Garen adjusted his stance, sending a pulse of intent through the lattice. The Dracari intercepted it mid-air, slashing and pivoting in perfect unison. One emerald-scaled twin whispered near him, do you see now? Your actions command resonance. Garen wiped sweat and frost from his brow. Resonance, right. My new job title, Human Conduit for Dragon Army. The lattice pulsed again, stabilizing the workshop and projecting protective energy fields around the building. Sparks and plasma arcs danced across the walls, harmlessly redirected by the bond. Garen felt the energy flow into him, grounding his fear, amplifying his reflexes just enough to keep up. "All right, I admit it," he muttered. "This is kind of impressive." Valerix nodded, eyes glowing. "Impressive, human, is survival through wisdom and courage. Your choices shape not just this valley, but alliances far beyond." Garen blinked. "All right, far beyond. Got it." Luma floated beside him, nervous but attentive. "Garen, sensors detect a larger vessel approaching. Likely a command unit from the consortium. Probability of direct engagement, extremely high." Garen groaned. "Perfect timing. Just when I was getting used to chaos." Valerix's amber eyes glimmered. "Prepare yourself. Your role as fulcrum will be tested. We will support, but you must hold the bond. Do you understand?" Garen nodded slowly, wrench gripped tight. "I understand. Somehow, I'm the keystone." "Great. Universe, you owe me a coffee for this." Outside, the snow-covered valley pulsed in tandem with the workshop, light and energy radiating outward. The Drakkari moved like liquid metal, intercepting, parrying, and coordinating with Garen's subtle guidance through the lattice. The first command unit from the consortium emerged on the horizon, a massive, hybrid craft bristling with weaponry, moving with mechanical precision. Garen inhaled sharply, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. "All right," he muttered, "time to see if kindness really can hold off an army." The lattice pulsed in response, bright and protective, a silent echo of trust and power connecting human and dragon across the frozen plains. The horizon shivered with movement as the massive consortium command ship approached, engines humming with lethal precision. Garen Vel stood in the center of the workshop, hands brushing the crystalline lattice above, feeling every pulse reverberate through his chest. Luma's voice was sharp and anxious. "Garen, they are preparing offensive measures. Shields and energy weaponry charging. Probability of engagement, critical." Garen muttered under his breath, "Critical. Perfect. Just my kind of morning." Valerix's amber eyes glowed brighter, her wings flexing. "The human's resolve will hold the nexus. Stand firm. Trust the bond." Outside, the Drakkari warriors had formed defensive formations, crystalline armor gleaming as plasma arcs and energy pulses synchronized across their bodies. The smaller twins hovered near Garen, sensing his intent and mirroring his focus. One whispered, "The bond is strong. You guide the flow." Garen groaned. "Flow, right. I guide flow. Sounds professional." He rubbed his frost-lined beard, feeling the vibrations of the approaching ship through the lattice. "Professional, sure. Mostly terrifying." The first barrage hit the valley as the consortium vessel unleashed a wave of magnetic disruptors. Snow exploded into the air, shards spinning in chaotic arcs. Garen's hands pressed into the lattice, sending a pulse of control outward. The Drakkari reacted instantly, their bodies weaving through the storm, intercepting the energy with arcs of crystalline shields. One massive warrior leapt into the air, claws slicing a disruptor beam before it could reach the workshop. Garen muttered, "Okay, that worked, slightly terrifyingly well." Valerix's blade ignited, reflecting the green and gold energy of the lattice. "Do not underestimate them," she called. "Every wave they send tests the bond. Maintain focus." Garen's eyes narrowed, instincts kicking in as he adjusted his mental projection through the lattice. The workshop thrummed, machinery and alien devices humming in synchronization. Panels glowed, arcs danced, and the generators stabilized under the strain. "All right, Luma," he muttered, "hold the fort. Let's see if these guys actually understand persistence." Outside, the first wave of consortium drones crashed against the coordinated Dracary defenses. Sparks flew, metal twisted, but every assault was countered with precision and energy redirected by the lattice. Garen could feel the harmony in the pulse, a rhythm that connected him to the warriors and their ships hovering above. One of the twins, emerald-scaled, floated closer, eyes sharp. Do you sense it? Your fear and focus merge. It strengthens the nexus. Garen exhaled sharply. Great. My fear is now weaponized. Fantastic. A larger consortium scout swooped low, weapon spinning. Garen's hands tensed, sending a ripple through the lattice. The floor vibrated, energy arcing along the walls, and the workshop's defenses flared. Crystalline shields projected outward, intercepting the incoming fire. Sparks danced harmlessly across metal surfaces as the lattice absorbed and redistributed energy. Valerix's voice rang out over the hum. You guide them, human. Your mind channels our strength. Without you, the bond weakens. Garen muttered, without me, the bond weakens. Got it. No pressure. The consortium vessel adjusted its trajectory, preparing a concentrated pulse aimed at the workshop. Garen felt the warning in his chest, a deep vibration through the lattice. All right, he muttered, time to crank this up. He projected intent into the lattice, visualizing the energy as a river flowing through every Dracary warrior, every device, every shard of crystalline power. The pulse above hit the valley, and was diverted seamlessly into the lattice, converted into arcs of light that danced harmlessly across the snow and the Dracary armor. Garen grinned faintly. Nice. Take that, Paperwork Universe. Valerix moved closer, blade slicing the air, cutting through residual energy arcs. Human, the bond is strong. You guide the flow. Trust it, and they will not breach this place. Garen's brow furrowed. Trust it. Sure. If trusting it kills me, I'll know it's a bad day. The smaller Dracary twins adjusted their positions, mirroring his movements and intent, reinforcing the flow of energy. Every beat of his heart seemed to sync with the lattice, the valley, and the hovering fleet above. A second barrage hit, stronger, more focused. Snow and ice exploded across the plains. Garen focused, hands pressed into the spinning core, sending a precise pulse outward. The lattice responded, amplifying the Dracary's defensive maneuvers. Energy cascaded in arcs, intercepting projectiles midair. One massive warrior leapt high, body spinning, catching a concentrated pulse in crystalline claws, redirecting it skyward where it harmlessly dissipated. Garen muttered, okay, this is actually working. Slightly terrifyingly effective. The wind howled as the consortium vessel adjusted tactics, smaller drones flanking the valley. Garen felt the vibration through the lattice intensify. Luma's voice was clipped. Garen, overload imminent. Energy surges beyond structural thresholds. He exhaled, steadying himself. All right, if I die, tell everyone I died a heroic, coffee-less death. Valerix's amber eyes glinted with pride. You are alive. You are the fulcrum. And you command more than your imagination allows. Focus. He sent a controlled surge through the lattice, guiding the Dracary warriors with intent. Panels lit in a brilliant pulse, arcs of energy creating a protective dome around the workshop. The combined force of human intuition, alien technology, and dragon warriors created a barrier that the consortium could not penetrate. Outside, snow and ice reflected emerald and gold light, a visual symphony of power and precision. Garen felt his chest tighten with exhaustion and awe. All right, he muttered, I think I just held off an armada with duct tape and intuition. Valerix stepped beside him, hand resting lightly on his shoulder. You have done more than survive, human. You have protected all present. The bond is stronger than it has ever been. Garen blinked, staring at the flickering lattice. Bond stronger than ever, huh? I guess saving strangers really does come with weird perks. Luma's optic blinked rapidly. Warning, consortium retreat not confirmed. They may attempt renewed engagement. Garen sighed. Renewed engagement? Universe, you're relentless. Outside, the valley settled slightly, the first signs of retreating drones skimming the snow. The Dracari warriors regrouped, energy arcs dimming to a low, steady hum. Garen sank onto a crate, rubbing his hands over his frost-lined face. All right. I think I deserve a coffee. Valerix's amber eyes met his. Coffee can wait. Honor cannot. Garen groaned. Figures. Coffee never survives galactic drama. Luma's voice chimed in, reluctant but approving. The bond remains stable. You have guided it successfully, Garen. Probability of continued success, high. He muttered, high probability of exhaustion, too. The valley glowed faintly, snow reflecting the lattice's emerald gold light. Garen leaned back, chest heaving, feeling the pulse of the bond resonate through him, through the workshop, and outward to the fleet above. He muttered, one act of kindness, one lousy snowstorm, and suddenly I'm a keystone for a dragon army. Universe, you owe me a break. Valerix's tail swept across the floor, the hum of energy fading to a gentle rhythm. Rest, human. For tomorrow, the galaxy may demand more. But tonight, you have held it all. Garen closed his eyes, exhausted but exhilarated. All right, but seriously, coffee. The valley lay quiet under the faint glow of drifting auroras, the snow reflecting emerald and gold from the lattice and hovering ships above. Garen Vel slumped against a crate, frost still clinging to his hair, feeling every vibration from the workshop and the energy pulsing through the lattice. Luma floated nearby, optics flickering in cautious patterns. Garen, energy readings indicate stabilization, but sensors detect residual consortium presence along the northern ridges. Probability of renewed action, moderate. Garen groaned. Moderate? Universe, I survived the impossible and you call it moderate? Valerix's amber eyes narrowed slightly. The galaxy tests all who influence it. You are not exempt. Even now, vigilance is required. The 16 Dracari warriors gathered near the lattice, tails curling in relaxed patterns but eyes alert. One massive sapphire-scaled warrior approached Garen, voice low and resonant. Human, the bond remains strong. Your guidance allowed us to repel aggression. Yet, vigilance must endure beyond the storm. Garen rubbed his forehead. Repel aggression, sure. Endure vigilance, that sounds like my personal nightmare. Luma chimed in, flickering nervously. The lattice's integration with the workshop has created feedback loops. Any misstep could result in localized system overload. Garen's eyes widened. Localized overload? You mean my coffee machine could go rogue? Valerix's tail swept across the floor as she adjusted her stance. The bond extends beyond the building. Your presence harmonizes the fleet, the warriors, and the workshop. Even your perception influences the outcome. Garen blinked. Perception. Universe, I can barely perceive breakfast. One of the smaller emerald-scaled twins hovered near him, claws brushing a panel. Perception is control. Your focus channels energy through intention. Garen muttered, channeling intention, sounds professional. Mostly terrifying. Outside, the wind shifted, carrying the faint hum of distant engines. Garen's sensors picked up movement, a reconnaissance group of consortium scouts probing the edges of the valley. Figures, he muttered. Just when I thought I had a quiet moment. Valerix's amber eyes tracked the movement. They test our presence. You must maintain composure. Your bond directs our response. Garen rubbed his temples. Composure, right. Let me just invent that real quick. The lattice above responded to his subtle focus, pulses of green and gold threading through the workshop. Machines hummed, panels glowed, and even Luma's circuits seemed to synchronize with the rhythm. Garen's hands hovered over the spinning core, adjusting microcurrents with intent alone. The Drackery mirrored his motions, movements flowing in a dance of coordinated precision. Okay, Garen muttered, slightly terrifyingly coordinated. The sapphire-scaled warrior inclined its head. Coordination stems from trust. Human, you have earned it. A sudden pulse from the northern ridge made him flinch, another wave of consortium drones, smaller and faster than the last. Garen sent a pulse of intent through the lattice. Energy arcs shifted across the workshop, protective barriers forming around the perimeter. Snow exploded in miniature storms as drones were intercepted midair, arcs of converted energy redirecting their paths harmlessly into the valley. Garen muttered, okay, slightly terrifyingly effective, again. Luma buzzed sharply. Caution, Garen. Feedback loops are increasing. Your focus must remain constant. Garen groaned. Constant focus, right after lunch. Valeric stepped closer, wings folding slightly, amber eyes steady. Human, you are the fulcrum. Without your guidance, the lattice falters, and our defensive cohesion diminishes. Understand your role. Garen rubbed his frost-lined beard. Fulcrum, role, got it. Universe, you're really good at job descriptions, huh? One of the twins floated near, emerald scales glinting. You have mastered the initial synchronization. Remaining calm under pressure enhances resonance. It is rare among your kind. Garen muttered, rare, or just stubborn enough to survive blizzards. A large plume of snow erupted as another wave of drones attempted to flank the workshop. Garen sent a deliberate pulse through the lattice, directing energy to reinforce barriers and guide Drackery warriors. Crystalline arcs converged, intercepting projectiles with near-perfect precision. Sparks and frost exploded harmlessly, light reflecting in dazzling patterns. Valerix's voice rang over the hum. Excellent. You are learning the rhythm. Each pulse strengthens the bond. Garen blinked. Learning rhythm. I'm a human drumstick in a dragon orchestra. Fantastic. The Drackery warriors adjusted positions instantly, their crystalline armor resonating in harmony with Garen's micro-adjustments. One of the twins whispered, perception, focus, intention, each harmonized with action creates resonance. You have learned quickly. Garen rubbed his eyes, feeling exhaustion and exhilaration collide. Quickly, right. How about a medal for surviving before lunch? Luma beeped nervously. Garen, probability of further engagement remains non-zero. You must maintain connection. Garen muttered, non-zero, my favorite probability. Outside, the remaining scouts skidded over the ice, intercepted before they could reach the valley floor. Snow swirled in green and gold light, reflecting the lattice and the hovering ships above. Garen could feel the pulse in his chest, a vibration threading through every bone, every muscle, synchronizing his heartbeat with the workshop and the Drackery. He muttered under his breath, okay, slightly terrifyingly connected. Valeric stepped beside him, hand resting lightly on his shoulder. Human, the Vanguard honors you still. Your guidance has held the Nexus intact. Others will come, but the bond is resilient. You are central. Garen groaned, leaning back. Central. I feel more like the center of a galactic headache. Luma floated closer, scanning the workshop. Energy levels remained stable. Feedback loops managed successfully. Probability of overload, low. Garen rubbed his eyes. Low, that's comforting. The valley glowed faintly, snow reflecting the lattice's emerald gold light. Garen exhaled, feeling the pulse of the bond stabilize, the Drackery warriors regrouping and returning to defensive stances. The distant engines of the consortium receded slightly, tentative and calculating. Garen muttered, all right, maybe I survived. Slightly terrifyingly intact. Valerix's tail swept the floor in a calm rhythm. Rest, human. For tomorrow, the galaxy may demand more. But today, you have held it all. Garen closed his eyes, exhausted but exhilarated. Exhilarated, sure, but seriously, coffee. The valley lay quiet under a pale sunrise, the snow reflecting soft green and gold glimmers from the lattice that still hovered above Garen Vell's workshop. For the first time in days, silence dominated the frozen plains. Garen leaned against the console, rubbing frost from his hair, feeling the gentle pulse of the lattice threading through the workshop, the Drakkari, and himself. Luma floated nearby, optics blinking in a calm, steady rhythm. Garen, energy levels stable. Lattice integrity, optimal. Vanguard presence remained synchronized. Garen exhaled, a small smile tugging at the corners of his frost-crusted beard. Optimal, huh? That's the best I've heard all week. Valerics moved through the workshop, amber eyes scanning the walls, the machines, and the warriors. The bond has strengthened far beyond initial projections. Your guidance, human, has proven invaluable. The Vanguard acknowledges your courage and compassion. Garen waved a hand absently. Courage, compassion, all I did was let some freezing dragons into my shop. Universe really overdoes titles. One of the smaller emerald-scaled twins floated near him, claws brushing a panel gently. Your actions have reshaped alliances. You have shown humanity's worth beyond mere survival instincts. Garen muttered under his breath, worth beyond survival, and all I wanted was a warm cup of coffee. Outside, the avocado-shaped ships hovered silently, ramps retracting slowly, engines glowing faintly as they prepared to depart. Garen stepped to the frosted window, watching them glide effortlessly into the thin atmosphere. 16 of the dragon warriors lingered near the lattice, now at ease, tails curling and scales reflecting the soft sunlight. Garen muttered, well. I guess they actually liked me. That's new. Luma's voice chimed in, almost amused. Unlikely, given prior analysis, but true. Garen scratched his beard. Unlikely, but true. Sounds like my dating life summary too. Valerics approached, her blade retracted, wings folding gracefully. Human, you have earned not only gratitude but trust. The Vanguard departs, yet we leave a portion of our energy within this nexus. Should threats arise, it will respond. Garen nodded slowly, glancing at the suspended crystalline lattice. Respond, without me? Or do I get a day off too? Luma buzzed softly. It will act autonomously within parameters, Garen. You may rest, for now. Garen exhaled, a laugh escaping despite frost-lined lips. Rest, finally. Universe, you're learning manners. The Drakkari warriors moved toward the departing ships, leaving only the light pulse of the lattice in the workshop as a quiet reminder of their presence. Garen watched as the last ramp retracted, the fleet ascending in synchrony, leaving the valley still and pristine. He rubbed his hands over his face. 16 dragons, 107 ships, and I survived to tell the tale. That's a win, right? Valerix's amber eyes softened. A monumental one. You have proven the value of individual action. Compassion transcends distance, human. Never underestimate it. Garen chuckled. Distance, sure. But coffee would help a lot with that too. The smaller twin floated toward him, hovering near his shoulder. Your shop is enhanced. Machines integrate seamlessly with the lattice. Even human technology adapts. It is remarkable. Garen leaned back against the console. Remarkable, huh? I'd settle for functional coffee. Luma's optic blinked in a gentle pattern. Functionality is guaranteed, Garen. Even your coffee machine should adapt. Garen grinned faintly. Finally, a perk. Outside, the wind carried only the faintest whisper of engines fading into the distance. The snow reflected the green and gold glimmers of the lattice, now stable, radiating calm energy. Garen took a deep breath, savoring the quiet for the first time in what felt like an eternity. Valerix's voice broke the silence softly. "Human, the galaxy remembers. Your courage, your decision to act without expectation, has reshaped interactions across light years. Many will speak of this day." Garen smirked. "Many will speak, or I'll just make a story out of it. I'm better at fixing things than gossip anyway." He walked slowly through the workshop, eyes taking in the repairs completed, the alien enhancements integrated into human machinery. Panels glowed softly, arcs of energy dancing across conduits and floors, harmonizing in a quiet rhythm with his heartbeat. Luma hovered near the console, scanning. "Garen, the workshop is now a safe nexus point. The lattice sustains autonomy. Human and Dracari synergy remains intact." Garen rubbed his frost-lined beard. "Synergy, huh? Sounds fancy. Guess I can finally go home, or at least pretend to." Valerix stepped beside him, placing a clawed hand lightly on his shoulder. "Rest, human. Reflect. You have acted with honor, bravery, and kindness. The vanguard departs, but a portion remains within the Nexus. Should the galaxy challenge this frontier, it will remember your actions." Garen exhaled, a small laugh escaping. "Remember my actions, yeah, universe. Just try not to give me too much paperwork about it." Luma blinked once, optics steady. "Unlikely. This time, you may enjoy quiet." Garen stepped to the frosted window, watching the last shimmer of the avocado-shaped fleet disappear over the icy horizon. 16 grateful dragons lingered briefly, shimmering in the sun before vanishing as well. He exhaled slowly, feeling the weight of the day's event settle, leaving a mixture of awe, relief, and exhaustion. "All right," he muttered, "I saved 16 dragons, stopped an armada, bonded with a fleet, and didn't burn down my shop. Not bad for a snowstorm." Valerix inclined her head. "Not bad, human. Monumental." Garen rubbed his forehead, finally allowing himself a smile. The valley was quiet now, the snow pristine, the lattice glowing faintly in emerald and gold. Garen sank onto a crate, letting the calm wash over him. Luma hovered nearby, lights dimmed in contentment. "Garen," Valerix's voice whispered, "the galaxy awaits the echoes of your courage. But for now, rest." Garen exhaled, eyes closing briefly. "Rest, coffee, maybe a nap. Sounds perfect." Outside, the wind stirred gently, carrying faint memories of dragon wings and alien engines, but peace had returned to Glassivus, 9. And for Garen Vel, the grizzled mechanic who had risked everything for strangers, the galaxy had finally answered with quiet gratitude, leaving him alone with a glowing workshop, a stabilized lattice, and the simple, profound joy of survival and a job well done.